Bring the Dune City Council regular meeting Wednesday, April 11, 2018 to order, please. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mayor Robert Forsyth,
Here.
Council President Sheldon Meyer,
Present.
Councilor Alan Montgomery,
Present.
Councilor Duke Wells,
Here.
Councilor Tom Allen,
Here.
Councilor Robert Orr,
Here.
and I suspect that Councilor Snow will be here shortly, but I haven't heard
Haven't
anything.
Join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would accept the motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none? That's passed. Jimmy, would you like to do the announcements?
Certainly. We will be holding a town hall meeting right here on April 18th. It's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. All Dune City residents are welcome to come to discuss public safety concerns with the City Council, the Lane County Sheriff, Sergeant Michael Brewster of the Oregon State Police, and Florence Police Chief Tom Turner. A Budget Committee meeting is scheduled for April 24th at 5 p.m., at which time there will be a review of the third quarter fiscal year 2017-18 and introduction of the budget meeting schedule for the fiscal year 2018-19 budget. The 6th annual Oregon Dunes Triathlon will be held on May 12th in Dune City. We need volunteers to help staff for the race courses. Please call Rapunzel at City Hall, 501-997-3338 to register. We are also looking for someone with a motorized boat to help set up the swim course for the triathlon. If you would like to help out, again, please get a hold of Rapunzel at City Hall. Dune City is now taking nominations for Volunteer of the Year. Nomination forms are available on the city's website, or stop by City Hall. We can certainly provide you with one.
Thank you. Old business, city building program.
As we have previously discussed, the Department of Justice entered an opinion that the way many of the cities, particularly in Lane County, conduct their building program by contracting out third party to, or in our case, Northwest Code Professional Services for our building official and building inspection under contract is unconstitutional. And during the last legislative session, the legislature attempted to adopt legislation to correct the problem. They were unsuccessful in those attempts. Currently, my most recent conversation with Mr. Young, who is the director of the Building Commission, is that sometime, if not this week, next week, they will be issuing notices to all cities who contract for those services, telling them that their programs will be shut down effective July 1, and they will automatically default to Lane County for operation unless certain things occur before then. And those things originally discussed would have been somebody on staff taking the classes to become the building official, which we had talked about once before. That is no longer the case. They want someone who is actually has a structural inspection endorsement from the International Building, yada yada, whatever it is. And so that's not an option that's available to us. Our options are to hire an electrical inspector, a building official, and a building inspector. The building inspector and the building official can be one and the same person. And I understand, Mr. Mann, you'd like to speak to this issue a little bit tonight. He's got a real grasp on what was going on. I've been following it pretty closely because it affects us greatly, but I could never, it was not making any sense. I couldn't make it make sense in my head why were they doing this? And it wasn't until I spoke to Mr. Mann a couple of days ago that all of a sudden the light came on. Oh, I see what's going on. And I would like him to express that in his profession, because he's a contractor. He's been a contractor in the state of Oregon for 40 years. So, Ron, you want to come forward?
I think most of you know me. Ron Mann, 89201 Sherwood Island Road. We currently are finishing up a project up north in northern Dune City with Warning Bridge. I've been building in the Florence area since 1976 on my own. One of the first people I had the privilege of meeting as an inspector was Emile Mortier on a little job over here in Dune City. And it's awful funny to me that after 40 years we find out that a service well given is unconstitutional in the state of Oregon, but I guess that's the system. However, I believe that we have a concern, especially for small and rural markets such as this one. You know, I was over this last summer in the, over around halfway, they're confronted with this kind of an issue where they're not able to provide inspection services on their own. And I was in a conversation today with one of the gentlemen at the state of Oregon who explained to me how they're handling and taking over those inspection systems. And I'm concerned, after speaking to the gentleman, I think they're well-intentioned to some degree, but I think there's a desire to control more closely rural communities that may be independent-minded, take away some of those controlling issues. And that's the feeling I got with him, because I asked him specifically, how are you going to handle zoning issues? For example, Dune City has its own set of issues, its own set of geologies, its own hydrologies in your soils. You have your concerns with water and all the above. And I asked him, how are you going to integrate that? How are you going to do that? And he said, well, we'll talk to the local jurisdiction, get some input, and we're primarily going to enforce from the standpoint of building code, state of Oregon. Well, as you all know, it's like going to a dress party at a tuxedo and a pair of blue jeans. You've got to have, when we have building codes, those have to be integrated into the city's long-term goals. They have to be a part of it. Part of your controlling methodology in a city like Florence is when an inspector, or Dune City is when an individual shows up in the building department and finds out you've broken a zoning law, or you're about to break a zoning law. He catches you before you pour the foundation. He catches you at the time of inspection. If we lose that local control, if we lose that here locally, then what will happen is you'll have tough economic decisions to make in the future as a council if you wish to control your community. Because I can see a point in time where an individual comes out, thinks he's doing everything right, pours a foundation too close, not enough setbacks. That's not going to be checked by the state of Oregon. And you're going to be left with a decision that this individual did what he thought was right, didn't know he was going to break the law. The state of Oregon didn't enforce it. Now you have a foundation and framing on a project that maybe not meet your setbacks. That's just one of the problems I see. And so I would really encourage the council in Dune City I really encourage you to do whatever you can do to continue the relationship you've had to some degree with someone like the group that we currently had. They've serviced us well. And, you know, as many of you know, I got beat up in the local process several years back here. I got an education in being on the wrong side of a very sticky stick. And sometimes you think, well, you know, my own interest is I got beat up and I'd like everybody else to just get somebody in here that was a little nicer. But you know what the fact is? Local control that is messy is better than outside control with no emotional attachment. And so I would encourage the Dune City Council to do whatever they can to keep our system controlled locally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Bonnie Allen, Planning Commission Chairman Bonnie Allen would like to speak if that's possible.
I've been on the planning commission for 3+ years and chairman for 2 of those. And I would like to say that we have a well-intentioned, hard-working group of commissioners who've been very successful in pulling together citizen input and going through the ordinances. And as we do this, we talk about what is important to Dune City. We always operate within the state regulations, but what is unique about this place? And that's what I would like to see continue.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree.
The options that are available to the city council right now are to do away with the program and either let it go to Lane County or contract with the state to have the state do it, to lawsuit and try and stay the action, or to hire our own inspector, building inspector and electrical inspector, and with one of them to serve as the building official. So I would propose that perhaps the mayor and whomever the mayor might choose to work with him to negotiate a contract. I did discuss it with Mr. Mortier. He has some ideas that we may be able to hire him on a part-time basis and work this out. They're working very hard. In the meantime, Senator Rowland's office has set up a regional meeting. I'm not sure where it will take place, but it's going to take place somewhere between Reedsport and Yachats. And we're all going to get together and talk about the options that are available and what might or might not occur. So that's the current status of what's going on. I expect to receive the letter soon. I did speak to Mr. Long, and I don't know, I came away with the feeling that he was pushing very hard for us to go and turn everything over to the state. I really felt that, so the saga will continue.
Just to clarify, a contract employee a contractor is not legitimate to do this, but an employee is.
That's the position that they're taking. I asked the question, because as you all know, we sign that resolution every year, the 4 services that the city provides. Well, one of them's roadways. I don't go out there with a shovel and lay asphalt and do that. We contract that out. And so it's kind of scary to me that they're taking this position. How far are they going to push it? Those are and electrical power, supposed to provide streetlights. Well, we contract for utilities. I mean, we don't produce our own electricity. So it's got me a little concerned on how this could play out in the long run, in the worst case scenario.
Or even Rapunzel's position, aren't you contract?
Not anymore.
Oh,
No,
okay.
co-employment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's uncommon in this day and age for municipalities, universities, or whomever to try to get contracting for services under the thumb of governmental agency. It's happening all around. This sounds to me just like another way to try to get into the, especially taking on the rural communities first. You know, so it really will, I think, disservice those communities rather than doing them a service. The one thing, Jamie, we may want to make sure that we do as we get into these discussions further on is find out, if you can, from the legal side of it, what the state is going to accept as a quote employee. Because just like with other things, you know, we can say, oh, it's an employee, but they work, 10 hours a month. Well, some will accept that, some won't. Just find out what that is so that we can enter into this employee type of relationship and make sure that we're doing it correctly, because I can't picture turning over any of our inspections or anything to the state of Oregon. That just doesn't make sense. I don't know how anybody could even conceive that other than trying to maybe bolster their employment or union or whatever their mindset is.
Turnaround time from Salem would be Johnny on the spot too, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, so much quicker than Eugene.
So may I just ask for
Sure,
clarification? Are we then just at this point, a fact-finding mode? We're trying to figure out what we can do and can't do? Is that what you're
The
saying?
one thing that the building commission was instructed to do was to create, adopt regulations. And those regulations are due out, that's the letter that he's going to be sending. But in talking about that, usually when they consider adoption of regulations, they are required to send them out ahead of time so people can comment on them. And nobody's seen that. So I'm not real sure where we are in the process. The only thing I know is what I'm hearing is a very slow process that isn't going to get done in time before the new fiscal year. And of course, then again, we're all going into the budget process, and how do we budget for this? Well, that's just one of the things we got to talk about.
First, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the council, are we all on the same page, wanting to keep local control?
There's no sense in having a council if the state's going to tell us how to run the city.
Yeah. And then I can say, we were elected by the citizens of Dune City to look on their behalf of things exactly like this, and folks that come in, like Mr. Mann, that comes in here and does business in this town. The idea of turning that over to the state is just, to me, it's insane. We have to do everything we can and send a loud message back to the state that we're gonna do everything we can to maintain control here in Dune City.
To keep us informed, yeah.
What will it take for us to form a relationship going forward with Dave Mortier?
He has already expressed an interest.
But will he be contracted in some way, shape, or form?
No, he would be actually hired.
Okay, so then it comes back to how many hours?
Exactly, on what those regulations say, what they will consider to be an employee. If he works less than 600 hours a year, of course, we aren't required to sign him up on PERS. And with right now, the average cost, if you look at some of the data that's available for cities to look at, the average annual salary for an inspector is about $85,000 a year for a full-time job. So he's interested, he's ready to talk, and I would like to see that discussion happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move forward with it.
Yeah, we need to, clarification is going to be key,
Yes.
because you're also going to want to look into how that might affect his business, right? You become an employee of a municipality, how does that affect any other business that you have when it's the same business? So we really have to be careful with
Right, he's in the
clarification on all those
process,
things.
in the process of
Yeah.
checking that out.
All right, thank you.
So you're sensing consensus then from this group?
I'm sorry?
You're seeing that there's consensus among this group of?
Right, yes, thank you.
Excuse me, maybe I didn't hear it correctly. We're being asked tonight to have an opinion or look at regulations.
Well, the regulations haven't been issued yet.
Okay, but if they're simply gonna mirror those of the state, then it's probably not something we're really interested in.
They want to take control from us.
Well, that,
Right.
right, it depends on the timing, it depends on how things go down. The process, if they are just starting the regulatory process for adopting regulations and have to go through the public notice process, then it's gonna be a while before the regulations are actually formally adopted. But in the meantime, we will be getting directives that says, if you don't have something different done by July 1st, we're taking over.
It's
So,
not much time.
and you know, in my mind, I'm going, and what happens to the permits that are open?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So right now, it's just, we gotta, Jamie has to dig and look and see what she can get a hold of and find. So there's nothing to do other than to.
Right, I just wanted,
It's an
I wanted to
informative
give
thing
you
for
an
the board.
update on
Yeah.
what's going on.
We have 2 meetings before we have
Yeah,
to do anything.
sure.
As of July 1st, is David Mortier done with us unless he does something or somebody does something?
It's up to us, it's not up to him, yeah.
Yeah.
It's up to us to do something before then. The question is, we don't have the regulations out yet to tell us what we have to do and how we have to do it. But we have to do it by July 1st.
Not uncommon.
Unfortunately.
Agreement for financial review services. We found,
We've received the proposed agreement from Wall and Wall,
right,
and it's in your packets. It's a little bit higher than what we've been quoted in the past, but then our last contract lasted for 5 years with the quote that we had,
yeah.
and it ended up costing us about this amount anyway.
Jamie, do I recall correctly that the firm that we've been using is pulling out of our area or out of the business, and therefore we have to find someone new? Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
What they've said is the auditor that we've been working with retired or opened her own business, I'm not sure which, but she is no longer available to us. And they could not find a replacement in time and get them up to speed, so they recommended we seek out others.
Right. Thank you.
So what do you need from us tonight? Anything?
If you accept the terms, I need to have authority to sign it on behalf of the city.
I read it, but I didn't see anything out of the ordinary with it.
You looking for a motion?
Yeah.
So moved. Then accept Wall and Wall.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, yeah, Jamie, go ahead and sign that
Thank you.
and bring them on board. This is our executive session for tonight.
And I'm sorry I didn't give you a script.
That's all right. We are going to adjourn for executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Only the city officials and are invited. The press is invited to the meeting with the understanding that they cannot report in any fashion on any of the information that is brought forth. We will adjourn at 6:25.
Excellent.
Sorry. All right, we'll bring the regular session of City Council, Dune City, April 11th, back to order. Okay, we're moving on to new business.
Excuse me,
Sean, what?
Mayor,
Yes.
just for the record, I'd like to indicate that
Oh,
Councilor Orr had another engagement that he had to attend, so he has now left. Thank you.
finally. Moving on to new business, appointing Planning Commission member Shauna Roberts. And Shauna, I understand you're in the audience. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself to the council, please?
Oh, great. Oh, well, never mind.
Where am I going?
Well, the microphone is here.
Oh, I usually talk loud enough, I don't need a microphone, so, I'm Shauna Roberts, I moved into the area in 2015, but my parents moved to Dune City in 1982. Things have changed a lot since 1982. They lived off Little Wohang. I've been a realtor for 40 years, I still am. I'm with Windermere, but I'm also on the Florence Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm their secretary on their board. I'm one of their ambassadors. And I enjoy community service, and my fiance, a retired rocket scientist, if you believe that, we're moving into a house on Clearwater Cove off of Cloud 9 in the next few weeks. So we will be interred here, and I look forward, if I'm appointed, to helping out in the community. It's my pick.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Shauna? None? All right. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Shauna Roberts.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Who was the second? Thank you.
Any opposed? None? Thank you, and welcome, Shauna.
Well, thank you.
Resolution for compensation coverage of volunteers. Want to go over that, Jamie?
Yes, it's just a housekeeping thing. We do it every year, except that apparently it didn't get done last year because I got a call from CIS saying, we haven't gotten that.
So, oops.
So I'm going to try and kill two birds with one stone by making it effective for 2017 and 2018.
Probably a good idea.
Get it done for this year. And this extends workers' compensation coverage to the volunteers for Dune City and the terms associated with that.
Anybody have any questions on that topic?
I move approval, resolution number 2018,
Second.
number, whatever it is.
I don't see a number on it, Jamie, or is it?
No, we have found out that we've been assigning the numbers first, and you're not supposed to until they pass.
Oh, okay, all right.
It will have a
So
number.
the blank number resolution.
All right,
Number E.
it's a resolution regarding.
Okay. Regarding the compensation for coverage for volunteers. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the topic? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. All right, then we have a ordinance for traffic. Can you explain that one? I think you brought that up last month, but you tell us what you,
Right, get it out to everybody. It's mostly parking and obstructing the streets.
yeah.
Basically, it takes the terms that were contained within our master transportation plan and turns them into an ordinance.
So, where did we derive this from? Looks like did we cut and paste a lot of this, Jimmy, from something else?
Of course.
Or is this what you spent all month doing?
Trying to remember where I did get it. It's been so long since I've done it.
Just
Probably a wide variety of things.
Yeah, because there's stuff in here that I don't think we'll ever run into. But I think,
You'd be
let me
surprised.
see if this is the one that I found the problem. I think it's pages 6 and 7 hopefully, it's either a misspelling or I don't understand the term of use of lug equipment on paved little streets.
The use of, I'm sorry, what?
Huh?
Love.
Yeah, is that what they are? Okay, so it's a good term?
They do a number on our
Oh, yeah, no,
streets. Yeah.
I was understanding, I just had never heard the term before. All right. Any further discussion on this one?
I got some stuff.
Please.
The way it is right now, I would vote no on this right now.
Okay, let's go.
On the obstruction of streets, A.
What page, please?
Yeah,
Six.
I'll break it, I'm not gonna read it, I'll just tell you what I think about it. To me, this goes too far for Dune City. You have somebody parking their car out there for 2 hours or 72 hours. I've lived in my place for 35 years. I park my car or a trailer in front of mine on the right of way, not on the pavement. We're talking about paved areas in Dune City. I understand not obstructing and all of that, but we have a lot of gravel areas, a lot of grassy areas. We have a lot of family people in Dune City, especially up on Hilltop. I drove around today for about an hour, including my neighborhood. We have a problem in my neighborhood that we know about. That needs to be taken care of. But worrying about how many hours somebody parks a trailer, a cargo trailer, a car out in front of their place, off the paved road, on a grass area or a gravel area, is not Dune City to me. The other thing is, it's the whole feeling that you get out of this thing that the non-paved area, left and right of the road, this right-of-way is some kind of sacred ground or something. To me, the right-of-way means the city owns it, and if they have a need for it sometime, they can come in there and they don't have to dally around and ask people for permission or anything. They get to use it, it's theirs. But to have all of this, because, the other one, displaying a vehicle for sale on a right-of-way, to me, that's not, I wouldn't sign for that. I would say no. And then the impoundment part on here, again, you go back to the 72-hour thing. It's a lot of overkill, and I think the other thing on here was the notification. There was a process involved in here about if you want to park something in a right-of-way, you get a permit. I could go along with that if it was more like calling El Rapa. When you're going to have a fire, you don't have to get a permit every time. You just call and you can notify City Hall, say, hey, I'm going to have a truck parked in the right-of-way out front of my house. Click. And now they know. What I'm getting at is Dune City is a very lived-in city. We have a lot of family people here with maybe a boat trailer, maybe a camp trailer. If it's not on the paved area and it's not in an intersection, it's not a danger to somebody. Having people use Dune City's right-of-way to park something on doesn't bother me at all.
Right away, do you have a definition for that for us?
Well, there's a difference between right-of-way and pavement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We are liable for anybody who gets harmed on the right-of-way, so if the vehicle gets hit by somebody going by, that's on us for allowing it. So I have some concerns there, but I also understand and I have no intention of driving around and seeing. What I get is somebody parked their travel trailer and we can't get by. That's what this was trying to address, and maybe I need to go back and look at it a little bit closer and make sure it indicates on the pavement. And
There are problem areas. I seen them today.
or where it might be dangerous, because
Yes.
if you're within 25 feet of a corner or of a stop sign and you park right there, that's dangerous.
I
That's
have no
dangerous
problem
for
with that.
everybody.
I have seen them today. I've seen them. You literally couldn't see traffic coming.
Right.
I've seen them today. That's not a problem. But just to throw a carpet over everything to fix a couple bad ones, I don't like that. It's just people, I use the right-of-way, Dune City right-of-way in front of my place all the time.
If that right of way extends beyond the pavement, I think is
Oh,
what
it
I was
does.
getting, yeah.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, on some of our streets are 33 feet wide, some are much bigger. Where does that right of way begin and end? I think, and so I understand Duke's concern, and certainly would voice the same opinion on some of these things. I'd like to see it pared down a little bit to fit a rural community.
I will check with CIS because the problem is the right-of-ways.
Right.
The right-of-ways are ours, and if somebody gets hurt,
Sure.
we're like any other property owner, that it's on us.
Exactly.
The first 10 or 12 feet of my driveway is city property, and do I have to get a permit to put fresh gravel on it then?
No, just to come to and from.
Right, which was the access permit he got when he got it.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
actually
part
right.
D here, so.
Years ago, I was required to pave the
Everybody is.
parking area that I parked my vehicle on.
In the driveway or in the front?
On right, it's off the, I had to pave up to the road to park my boat trailer there in the summer and my car there in the winter.
Well, maybe there always is that option, is to, get the permit to use the right-of-way to put a facility on. That's a right-of-way facility permit.
I'm not as concerned about it anymore as I was when my folks were alive and had mobile homes and travel trailers and things.
Yeah.
But the difficulty with that too,
I'm saying
Sheldon,
that-
is that a lot of the utilities run under it. So now you've paved over a utility that may need to come back out again or be fixed for some reason. So it's a risk, but
Let's continue working on it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Building regulation ordinance.
which one is this, the building regulations?
Yes.
We are going to have to do something with these, but right now this was written the way I thought it was gonna go down, the way the legislature was working it.
Mhm.
Not gonna happen. So be prepared for the future. The only thing positive I can say about it is that I did get written authority from DLCD
Mhm.
and actually an agreement that the building regulation program does not belong in our land use code, that it needs to be moved somewhere else. So by building regulation, this is regulation as to how the program works. It's not
Oh, I get it. Okay.
what the it's
Yeah.
not how to build. It's not building or zoning or planning or zoning. It is strictly how the program works.
Works.
So,
Actually, it's more an explanation of the process than.
right, it's more process than
Okay.
anything else.
And we discussed needing to clarify that a couple months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I read over this today and I was gonna ask for more time because I didn't get it.
I was gonna say, you stayed awake?
I didn't get it.
No, it's lengthy and you almost have to do a flow chart. CWM, H2O.
CWM H2O, I talked to them about possibly, there's a grant available from the state to do some of the things that we need to do under the terms of our permit. I don't have time to write the grant because I have to finish the WMCP before we can apply for the grant. So I asked them to submit a proposal on how much they would charge us to write the grant, and that's what this is.
Have we budgeted for this?
It's budgeted under protection of our natural resources or protection of our, something, resources, I think, in the water fund or motel fund. Somewhere, I can't remember off the top of my head.
You need a motion or just us to authorize?
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
How much is the grant for?
How much is the grant for? Up to, I want to say 250,000.
Any further discussion?
What are we applying for?
If you remember the last package, so we got up for the 15,000 or 20,000 to
Oh,
do.
yes, to do the water industry.
Right, to do all the stuff, and there may be some other stuff added in.
Okay. Yeah, this is that. that side of the water.
Seems like a decent percentage.
Yeah. Yeah.
15%.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. We're authorizing you to continue this process. And, yeah, you're a good son.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that motion?
I said,
Thank you.
Bring us up to date on the conversion of employees. Well, that's kind of an odd statement.
I'm converting the employees.
Converting them to.
Effective April 1st, 2 of our Cardinal employees are now full-time Dune City employees.
Excellent.
And 1, the new hire, will remain as a Cardinal employee for probably about 6 months,
Probation period.
probationary period. And then I anticipate converting her as well.
Right.
Bringing them to the dark side.
It's like odd term, but yes, I understand. Request for training.
Speaking of a new hire, Denise Lafferty is our permit tech, and some classes came up that are in Eugene. I think they're in Eugene. And I asked her to look them over and see if there was 1 or 2 that she'd like, and she liked all of them. But she, in the packet, you'll see she put them in the order of preference. And so I would like to see her attend. I think we're a member, because it's done by Northwest Code Professionals. It's conducted by Northwest Code Professionals. So the overview of code enforcement and reading construction. I myself think that reading construction documents and building department processes are the most important at this point. But she wanted the overview of code enforcement because she has absolutely no experience in code enforcement.
They seem to be relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. And the better trained our staff, the better
Yeah.
we all are.
Yeah, I make a motion to spend the money and train her up.
I'd like to see her if she wants to do all of them, let her do all of them. I mean, if she wants to do 1 through 4.
Is that a second?
Now, there are only 4.
6 at $50 a piece is only $300.
That's right.
That's pretty cheap training.
Yep, it is.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, see what we can get her started into.
Okay, thank you.
No public hearing, citizen input to items not on the agenda. Anybody signed up that wants to talk that hasn't already?
We have 2.
Excellent.
It's Kathleen.
Kathleen, how are you doing?
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm Kath.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Haven't seen you in a while. Haven't been here for a while. I'm Kath Cook. I live on Little Woking Drive, and I've lived here 22 years. One of the things I'd like to talk about is on the 31st of March, we had a clean-up, which we organised just among ourselves, a whole group of people, email back and forth, got more people, sent each other names, and we had about 30 people on Canary and Clear Lake from 101 right through. We picked up, I think it was something like 20 plus huge bags of trash. It is a real problem here in such a beautiful area to see people just throwing out. We had everything from cigarette butts to the tops of those bloody little bottles up there.
Yeah.
And it was really, really sad to see. When I first came here, they had like committees here, and they had groups of people who did different things. I guess they had like the road committee or something, yeah. And I was wondering if we could look at maybe re-establishing a committee of people who can address that issue. In Australia, we have signs up that say, "Don't rubbish Australia." Couldn't we have something that says, "Don't trash Dune City"? Because it's very sad to see today on the way home, I noticed that there's already trash on the side of the road. The people are just thrown out of cars. And couldn't that be an education thing that we address?
Lane County will not let us put up any more signs on their roads. Both Canary and clearly are Lane County roads. That's been the difficulty.
Adopt a highway?
However,
It is an election year.
thank you, thank you. Well, thank you for listening, I appreciate it.
There was a really nice article in the
Yes,
Cyclone News
yes,
today.
thank you to
with
Cyclone
some good
News for
pictures.
that, yes.
And I thought that was
Yeah.
maybe a really good start.
But I would like more, because it's so sad to see that, particularly those little lids from those bottles up there, guys, in the water now, in the water. So what's that doing to everything else?
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Roy Hammond? Roy?
Hi, my name is Rory Hammond. I live at 4910 Darling Loop. And it's not on the agenda, but first thing I noticed, did anybody vote for that conversion of employees? I heard you say it, but I didn't hear a vote, but that's beside the point. I volunteered for the budget committee. I didn't volunteer for the planning committee because I'm going to be doing some remodeling, and I didn't want to have a conflict of interest. But I do have some concern about the building code because about 10 years ago, well, almost, beg that, 20 years ago, I built a new house in Deer Island, Oregon. And going through the building process, and when I first went there, I thought it was great. They had a comprehensive checklist that I followed. And after I followed it and brought it back to the county planning and said, here's all the things done, all of a sudden I got a whole list of other things, and I had a miserable experience with building codes, and I really do believe in local control. And I know that you people only have 3 more months before you have to do something about this building code. And the last thing I'd want to do is have to go to Lane County or the state of Oregon. And my point is, I think about Portland. You know, they've gotten very liberal. They've wanted higher density, which includes if you build a house or something, or build apartment buildings or something of that sort, you don't have enough parking because of their ordinances and things of that sort. It's miserable. And you lose local control there. And I know people have had to cut trees down because they were dying, you're supposed to plant a new one. But the cost to do that and how they implemented it was just horribly miserable. And the worst thing I think you could ever do is give this control to the state of Oregon. And that's, I guess I don't know if this is a public hearing or not, it's really not, but I wanted to give you my opinion. And boy, I mean, I'd want to have the people with the pitchforks and things going after those guys and figure out how we can keep it there. It's not because I don't want to do anything wrong. Right. It's just that the response and it becomes so generalized or so strict that nothing happens.
Exactly.
And so I'm sure I sense that, but I wanted to go on record also that we need to be very careful not to lose it, because that's one of the reasons why I moved to this area, because of local control and it's small things. That's really, thank you.
Thank you, Roy. All right. On to reports. I have nothing.
Oh, there you go.
It's amazing.
Duke, I do have something for you.
What do I
You
have?
look right out there, it's flooding, and that's because the drain back here is clogged. The
Okay,
one that
now-
goes under the seat
You
concrete.
just
back
heard
there.
my report.
That you're gonna clean it,
Get that
right?
drain out.
I've cleaned that drain out many, many times. It's
Yeah.
not hard to do, and I could do it again, but I'm not dressed for it. Thank you.
Doesn't mean you're on a ladder, does it?
No,
Okay.
knees.
No,
Oh, yeah, okay.
no, you have to be on your hands and knees, yeah.
Water quality.
I don't have a report. We've had some of our equipment being recalibrated and those kinds of things, but in the off, not having a water quality report, water group has provided us with ample rain to keep the lakes
good.
full.
Public work maintenance.
Some of you may know that we have been removing alders from the rights of way. We're in those areas where it's been kind of tight to get through. We try to catch our tree guys during the off season, because they're too busy during the summertime to come out and do it. And so we kind of know ahead of time which ones we want to take out, preferably they don't fall before then, although some of them have been. So that's the big focus at this particular moment in time. Richard went out and filled all of the potholes that were brought up at the town hall meeting. They've all been taken care of. And that's about it for Public Works at this moment.
Emergency services.
I was not available to attend the West Lane Emergency Operations Group on March 19th, but I did include the packet materials in your packet. The next meeting, I think, is April 23rd, but Linda's got it down as April 16th, so I'm still trying to figure out when exactly the next meeting is. And she's also got it down as at Dune City, and I wasn't there to say yes, but that wouldn't surprise me. They say, well, let's do Dune City. But I don't know, it's not typical for them to do that, so I'm thinking it's April 23rd at the fire station.
And then city administrator report.
We have 27 building permits in March. The time is coming, people. We're going to get busy. It included 2 new houses.
Oh, okay.
There was 1 grading permit issued, 1 driveway access issued, and 2 vegetation removal permits, of which 1 was in the right of way and 1 is in the shoreline zone that turned out not to be needed anyway. CIC met on the 29th and where it finalized the review of the proposed language to require individuals interested in producing marijuana in the residential zone to make application to receive for approval of a conditional use permit, or in other businesses, marijuana businesses in the commercial zone doing the same thing, have to get a conditional use permit. And so now it has been referred to the Planning Commission for public hearing. That requires Measure 56 notice, which means we mail out notice to everybody, and publication requirements, 35-day notice if you follow state statute, 45 if you follow ours. So it'll be 45-day notice, until we can get that changed. Planning Commission also met on the 29th, where it referred the draft marijuana CUP ordinance to scheduled public hearing process. The Commission also set a goal to finish 155 review and to review all citizen input received every quarter and to report the findings regarding citizen input in a report to the City Council. And the Commission also appointed John Stead to serve on the CAC for continued review of 155.4.9. City reviewed 2 requests for information, which were handled by staff, and a complaint from an individual regarding potholes on Earhart Road, but appears that those potholes are on the county portion of Earhart Road, not on ours. It's beyond the city limits. We also received a complaint from a resident who wants to install a speed bump on Wright Road to help slow down the UPS and FedEx trucks from speeding through there so fast.
We got speed bumps.
No, on Wright Road, not on Huckleberry, yeah, on Wright Road. And this is the particularly narrow portion of Wright Road. And I have talked to the UPS driver, but I have talked to him until I'm blue in the face. So maybe that's something we consider, I don't know.
They say where they wanted to put it.
Out in front of his house was just fine with him.
Did you talk to UPS management?
Huh?
Did you talk to UPS management? Sometimes talking to the
Or
driver.
FedEx, sometimes that helps.
Right.
Let's see. I have been working nonstop on the water reporting for the city's water right for 3 weeks now. One thing that the the water master informed me the last time I talked to her was that that particular permit is scheduled to expire in 2022, which is 5 years. And when that comes, she says that they are not inclined to grant another extension. She thinks that we are close enough in water use that we won't need to anyway, that, we won't be losing a lot if that happens. I still think there might be extraordinary circumstances that we could try to get an extension anyway, so that's always still out there. But the big one is to make sure people are reading their meters regularly. Because she says that in the report, when I report to the state, I have to send an annual report to the state, but I have to put in that report for every single diversion, the monthly meter reading. And if she says if there's a 0 all the way across, that means somebody not reporting at all, she's gonna knock that off and inform us that we need to remove the pump from the lake. And that's gonna leave some people without water, all because they don't read their meter. So I've got to push on that now, start sending out letters, letting people know, you have to tell me, you have to report your meter reading. I know it's difficult for out-of-state people who only use their property once a year, but I have a mechanism for that. And so we will get that out there. But if you're renting your property for vacation rental, ask your vacation rental manager, property manager to do the readings. And I hope at some point in time to actually come up with a process that the city can offer somebody to go read the meters for you for a fee, but I haven't figured out how to work that just yet. So that's the big one, and I need to be pushing hard on that. And then we discussed the whole building issue thing, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Oh,
questions for
I'm sorry,
Judy?
there is one more thing.
What?
And thank you, Mr. Hannon, for bringing it up. The vote on converting, I know that we've
We've
discussed
already
it.
converted.
We didn't vote on it.
We don't need to vote on it. We voted a while back before you started converting them when we said, let's take them away from Cardinal and make them permanent employees.
Okay, did we vote at that?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
You're just reporting on the fact that you did.
I did want to make sure that it was voted at. So I'm glad.
Exactly. Anything else for Jamie? Good of the order. Now, nothing good for the order, nothing important.
I'm the proud father of a PhD graduate from Colorado State University, or from Colorado.
Which one have you been paying?
And she has, as of yesterday, successfully defended her doctoral thesis and will be now a PhD level nurse midwife.
Wow. All right.
So,
Congratulations. Very nice. In March, last month, a couple of weeks ago, my granddaughter gave birth to a great grandfather. Fun.
Not fun stuff. This magazine we get right here, it's election season, time to engage local control. Kind of appropriate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I would like, I think the council was all together on this, how important keeping local control as far as the building inspectors and all of that go. I would like to have a letter made up, if we could, Jamie, and have all of us sign it and send it to our state representatives, let them know that we want to push back on this at our level to begin with.
I like it.
I do too.
Starting off with Jay.
Yeah, send them off and say, I can't imagine that other small communities don't feel exactly the same way that we do.
Right.
Because
Yeah, that's really the campus.
no good can come out of it, the state takes over.
No.
Yeah, we could get off to Caddy and everybody. I think that's a good idea. Tom?
Nope.
No. All right, if there's nothing else, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:18.
Debbie's moving here?